Hello and welcome to ModKit. In this episode we're looking at a great real-time strategy game, Warhammer 40K Dawn of War. Relic's Dawn of War games have long since been my favourite RTS series, and with the original game now reaching 10 years old, it's starting to show its age. Most of the changes will focus on modernising the few settings that were made available, along with looking into fixes for widescreen and multiplayer. The first section will focus on getting the game to run, along with any multiplayer changes and widescreen fixes. Then we'll move on to game graphics configuration, followed by NVIDIA and AMD tweaks, and finally some results of the changes. The first thing you'll need to do is get your copy of the game. Currently it is available on Steam and from retail outlets. Both versions have their own pros and cons that will be detailed later in the guide. You will also need to locate your version of the game. For retail you'll see this when installing the game, and for Steam versions you can find your games by going to the top left Steam button, going to Settings, Downloads and Steam Library folders. Due to GameSpy being shut down, retail versions no longer have working multiplayer, whereas Steam versions have received an update allowing them to work online. However, if you do have a retail copy, you can use the link in the description to request a Steam version of the game. In some ways this gives you the best of both worlds. The main difference between the two versions is that Steam does have multiplayer capacity but lacks widescreen support. Version 1.3 had widescreen support, which was unfortunately patched out in later versions. With retail versions these can be patched to 1.3 manually, whereas the Steam version only supports letterboxed widescreen. A guide is listed in the description to allow you to use a stretched Steam version. This allows widescreen support but leaves the UI and game stretched. When doing your first run of the Steam version, ensure you start Steam in administrator mode. You can do this by right-clicking a Steam shortcut and choosing Run as Administrator. At this point we can start the game. Upon starting the game, a launcher window should appear. From here, select Optimal Configuration, then choose your graphics card, followed by choosing any 32-bit resolution. Widescreen resolutions will be enabled later. Choose your monitor's refresh rate, and then click Test. After the test has run, click Next and then Finished. We can then start the game again. Once in the main menu, choose Options, followed by enabling all high settings and on settings in the graphics panel. Then ensure that your sound settings are also enabled to the highest settings. Then choose Accept and exit the game. At this point you've completed the basics of getting the game to run. This next section will cover more advanced changes. Firstly, you want to open your Dawn of War directory. Then open the local.ini file with the text editor. To change the resolution of the game to your correct resolution, change the screen height value to the second number of your resolution, in this case 1080, followed by changing the screen width value to the first value of your resolution, in this case 1920. The further changes focus on lighting and texture quality. Change the value dynamiclights equals 3 to 4. Then add the line fullres_team color equals 1 to the bottom of your ini file, then save. You can also optionally enable anti-aliasing at this step. However, it is suggested that you use the AMD and NVIDIA specific settings listed further in the guide instead. The next change enables high poly models throughout the game. For retail versions, you can change this by going to your shortcut for Dawn of War, right-clicking it and choosing Properties, followed by going to the Shortcut tab, then adding the line Force High Poly to the end of the target window. Then Apply. For Steam users, you can make this change by right-clicking the game in your Steam games. Choose Properties followed by Set Launch Options, and add the line Force High Poly before exiting. This next section covers NVIDIA and AMD specific changes. Both require specific software to make the changes. For NVIDIA, download the NVIDIA Inspector app. Open the Profile Settings menu, then find Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War in the Profiles. Change anisotropic filtering mode to user defined, anisotropic filtering settings to 16 times, anti-aliasing mode to override, and anti-aliasing settings to 8xxx. You can reduce this value if you have low performance. Then apply the changes. For AMD users, you can use the Radeon Pro tool. Download and install Radeon Pro. Then add the 40k.exe from your Dawn of War directory to the profiles. Go to the Visual tab and tick the anti-aliasing box, followed by Override Application Settings. Then choose 8 times. Go down to anisotropic filtering, followed by ticking the box and selecting 16 times. This tweak guide was made more to fix the minor issues of the game. These changes mostly show in improving the graphical clarity of the game that a modern computer can deliver. Anti-aliasing and anisotropic filtering benefit the scene an awful lot. Ground textures look clear in the distance, and buildings show much greater detail. Thanks for watching.